All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us this morning or this afternoon, especially the last breakout session before lunch. I'm sure we're all eager to get in there. My name is Jason Ross. I'm an EM for the credit engineering team, particularly the upstream presentment one. And I'm joined here with Nate Schott and Tanya Jha, and we're here to talk about unlocking buy now, pay later, and the magic that it is. So we're all familiar with buy now, pay later. It's been pretty, pervasive throughout, the e-commerce world for the last few years. But we're here to talk about how to really maximize it. In case you weren't familiar with how beneficial it is for our merchants, we've got some amazing stats up here. So, 65% of US PayPal customers are pre-approved for our Pay in 4 products. So that's amazing. We bring our large customer base to you with great spending power, ready to purchase, over and over again. In the U.S., the Pay Later average order value sees a 70% lift. So if that doesn't get you there, then the total 12.8% lift in sales might do it. And I think something that's really impressive is that, over a quarter of Pay Later customers in the U.S. will do a repeat purchase with the same merchant. So you're going to get customers coming back, you're going to increase their loyalty, they're going to buy more stuff, and they're going to buy larger things. That's the magic of BNPL. Now globally, we see a 55% lift, and we see that spread across different industry verticals. It makes a lot of sense to me that the broadline retailers, like variety ones, such as like a Target or a Walmart, see the biggest lift. Because as consumers realize they have more spending power, then their imaginations start running wild. And they're no longer holding out for, next month or whenever the timing is right. They realize, hey, I can get this now, today. In addition to the stats that we have, there's a lot of other, great stuff that we see in the press. In the US, Wall Street Journal, Consumer Reports, give us the highest overall, BNPL app. Other parts of the world, we see similar, feedback. Consumers love PayPal's buy now, pay later. We have different BNPL products that can, as we like to say, cover the whole purchase range from t-shirts to treadmills. So we have our short-term pay later products like Pay in 4. In some countries, it's Pay in 3. For your smaller items. So we start that up at about $30, I believe is the right range. Scott can keep me honest over here. And that goes up to $1,500. For larger items, like treadmills or lawn equipment, whatever it may be, we have longer term options. Those are usually coming along with some interest in it because the risk is higher. But it gives greater optionality to your customers. And then in addition to our closed-end installment loans, we also still provide our open lines of credit. And on our PayPal credit product, there is that 6 months no interest offer that is always on and always there for purchases of $149. So with these 3 different products, there's a lot of different optionality here. But the real question is, how do you unlock this magic? Because buy now, pay later with PayPal is in the PayPal wallet. In PayPal checkout. Anytime your shoppers come there and you are an eligible merchant for it, and most merchants are, there's some exceptions for like gambling and things like that. But the real question is, how do you market it, right? And so this is a quote from someone in the credit industry who had a bit of involvement with starting up our group here at PayPal. And he gave this in an interview. The best place to market credit is at the point of sale. And when you go into like a brick and mortar store, you'll see offers and big posters as you walk in the front door, kind of like the homepage of a website. As you're browsing the aisles, you might see little placards in here with different financing options. And then, as you go to the checkout point of sale, you'll see even more. And you might even be prompted by the cashier about those different options. Online, virtually, it's pay later messaging. And so we're here to talk about PayPal's messaging product and all the different ways you can integrate it and what it can do for you. So we've got a nice list of features here, promotional messaging for all of our regions, US, UK, DE, France, Italy, Spain, Australia, and for all of our, buy now, pay later, closed-end, non-revolving offers. We also offer messaging for the revolving product, PayPal Credit. We have many different integrations. We have APIs, we have SDKs for web and for Android and iOS. So no matter how you present your products to your customers, we have options that can work for you. Then we, are hyper-focused on performance. And we're going to get into that a little bit later today. But we basically want to provide no friction whatsoever for you to integrate with us. So we obsess over things like Google Lighthouse scores. We have a lot of monitoring. Everything's baked into our development process. We're going to keep it running up 24/7. And then finally, just a quick note that we adhere to all the different regulatory rules and laws out there around the world in the markets that we operate in. So we not only for privacy concerns, but we also even have accessibility testing baked in, to our dev process. So we automate accessibility testing, making sure that we don't knock your site out of compliance with ADA or anything else. Now, finally, I want to just speak to turning browsers into buyers with full funnel messaging. So this is how you get the most impact from BNPL. And it's just like a brick and mortar store would do. You want to let your customers know as soon as they enter your store that this is available on your landing pages, your home pages, your product category pages, things like that. You want to put that information in the aisles that they're browsing on the product list pages. And then as they click into the PDPs and go to the cart pages, you want to back that up. And as they're going through that shopping journey, their imaginations start running wild, and it's like, hey, I don't have to settle for this particular item. I can now get what I really want. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nate, and he's going to talk about the many different integration types we have and show you some really cool tech.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Okay, so like Jason alluded to, when you want to directly integrate messaging on your website, there's 3 different ways that we offer as part of our core integrations. We offer a web-style integration, a mobile integration, and then a API integration. For the web, we support PayPal's SDKs, the V5 JS SDK, and the V6, which is soon to be out. Hopefully you all caught that talk just the other day. We're also inside the Braintree SDK as well. Spoiler under the hood, that's the PayPal JS SDK. We also have the mobile SDKs for Braintree and Android, and soon the PayPal iOS and Android SDKs as well. And then we have our API integrations to directly fetch content, which is available for select merchants. The PayPal JS SDK v5 is by far our most popular integration style, so we want to spend some time really diving into that. So using the v5 JS SDK, there's 3 different styles really to kind of integrate. There's the HTML attribute style, Advanced JS, React JS. We're going to get into some of those examples to just kind of give you a high-level overview here first. The HTML attributes is a very simple integration where essentially you just provide an element on your page with configuration options directly on as data attributes. For the Advanced JS, it has all of the same capabilities as HTML attributes, but it's a little bit more flexible. If you have a dynamic site, maybe you're using a framework or something, and you need to be able to really choose, when a message is rendering, how it's rendering. Maybe you're doing an SP, a single page application, and you need to sort of re-render that same message. You get a lot of that flexibility through the JS, Advanced JS style. And then there's the React JS. Everybody knows React is the primary framework of choice for many companies this day and age. So we have a thin wrapper around the JS SDK exposed via React components so that they're compatible with all the standard React hooks. So let's dive a little deeper into each of those just to really show how simple it is to integrate pay later messaging. So for the HTML style attributes, there's really just two steps. It's really that simple. It's basically a copy and paste style integration. There's really not too much to it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to include the SDK script. And with that, there's going to be a client ID. You'll get that from your developer portal. And then there's this components section that lets you kind of fine tune what components or what modules you want to include with the SDK. If you want pay later messaging, you're going to include the messages component. If you happen to have a buttons integration, you can include both messaging and buttons as the same SDK. So it's very convenient. And then secondly, there's the inline HTML attributes that I alluded to earlier. The data PP message, that's the important attribute that essentially tells the SDK, hey, I want a message here. Then all of the other data PP attributes basically are configuration options that you pass in to basically customize the option or customize the message to the page that you're using. We always highly recommend including the amount. That's what's going to give you that powerful breakdown, as you can kind of see at the bottom there, the pay in 4 interest-free payments of $12.50. So let's take a look now at the advanced JS. There's 3 steps here instead of 2. Slightly more complicated, but it's arguably the exact same thing. You can see at the top, we've got our SDK script, and then we have our div element. Instead of including inline elements, now we're using a class because we're going to target it with JavaScript. The SDK exposes a global PayPal object that includes a messages method. And then you may notice these are the exact same options from before, just now in a nice, convenient JavaScript object syntax. And then you pass it, or you then call the render option to basically select the div element that we put up above. Very simple, and it gives you that exact same message. These are this and the previous integration equivalent. And then finally, we have our React.js integration. This one's going to be, again, very similar, but slightly different. One of the nice things about the React.js integration is it's available via NPM, so you can include it as part of your build system, right? Many teams are bundling JavaScript, and this will be available directly into your code. So as we can see here, it imports both the PayPal script provider and PayPal messages. Spoiler alert, from the previous examples, that's just the SDK script and the PayPal messages module, more or less, right? So it's the exact same integration. So you can easily go from HTML attributes to JS SDK to React.js. The integration is virtually the same, and it's very seamless. So let's go even one step further and demo integrating a message on an example PDP page. So we're going to hop over to our developer docs, and we're going to go to the pay later section. We're going to skip over the integration page, or the overview page for the pay later offers. Jason already gave us an excellent overview for that. So we're going to hop down here to this integration section. It's the same steps as we saw earlier. We're going to do the HTML style attribute. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy over our SDK script. We can see that there's a client ID and placeholder there. So we'll hop over here, grab some sandbox credentials real quick, and then hop back over to our demo product page here. We'll go ahead and replace the client ID placeholder with that. So right now, at this point in time, we have a live SDK that works on our site. Simple as that. But it's not doing anything. We're not calling anything. So here, oops. Hang on one sec. So pausing here for a second, in our developer docs, we have a configurator UI that allows you to easily kind of choose what type of page you want, whether you want the old traditional flex banners for something like a home page, or on your product page, you want the small little snippet of text. So this configurator allows you to kind of dial in on the exact kind of message that you want. For this PDP page example, though, we're going to stick with our primary inline message, text message. So you can go here, copy the code real quick, noting that the data PP amount, we include it there because it's an important attribute, but that needs to be updated for your web page. So we'll go ahead and paste that in, and we'll go over here and we'll update it to the amount range. So going back over, now we'll see that on our product page that we were looking at before, we reload it, we'll see that we get a message, and we're getting our price breakdown there. And we can see that when we open it, we get our modal experience. So that's how simple it is to integrate messaging. But messaging can be dynamic. It doesn't need to be static. So if you saw on the product page, we had this selector. So right here, we're going to move the message down below the selector so that the message can basically update with the selector dynamically. So we're going to add an ID here so that we can target it via JavaScript. We're going to go down to this little script here that's basically just allowing us to change the amount for the message. So we're going to grab the message element via the ID here, and then we're going to go into this event listener. We're going to change the attribute for the data PP message. We have an event listener inside the SDK that looks for these changes, and it will automatically update the message for you. So we'll see here, we're going to pass in this quantity price, and we'll go back to our browser, and we're going to then reload the page. And we'll see the message go right below the quantity. That's where we moved it. We move it there so that since the user is making a change to the quantity, kind of keep it localized. And we can see that the message is now dynamically updating with very little changes. And we can see there, our product changes based on the price amount. So that's all fun and well, right? But that's old school, right? I want a vibe, right? I want to use some AI for messaging. Well, great. The AI is trained on PayPal's developer docs. It knows about messaging. So I'm going to use Copilot right here, and I'm basically just going to put this really, really simple prompt saying, add PayPal messaging to my page under the quantity selector using the HTML attributes. Right, it's going to be that final example that we saw previously. So it's going to spend some time thinking here. It's going to take a little longer. This was on hotel Wi-Fi at the time of this recording. But we'll see here. There we go. It's thinking, it's giving us its plan, it's saying, hey, I'm going to add messaging, and we can say, boom, it included the script, it went into our credentials file, added the client ID that we had. We have a data PP message using inline styles. We can see the amount got pulled in, $74.99. It's pulling the message element and passing that into the on-change event, just as our previous example. Slightly different, but the AI, it got it right. So now if we just go over here, reload, we get the exact same experience that we had before. The AI even helped us add a little bit of extra padding, so it's more visually pleasing. Same experience. Okay, so that was our V5 integration, right? That's our bread and butter. But V6 is right around the corner, and our team has been actively working on creating messaging for V6. And some of the benefits that you're going to get from V6 are web components. Web components have been around for a long time, but it's just recently that they've kind of become widely adopted by all of the browsers. So as part of a general push in the V6 SDK, we're moving from iframes to web components. Iframes have quite a bit of overhead attached to them. So moving over to web components just makes things very, very fast. On top of that, we've also implemented a new lightweight client-side caching layer to basically make messaging render effectively immediately, while still getting all of the same dynamic features, price breakdowns, everything. And then we've also added more flexibility to messaging, such as changing the font color, the font style, and all that kind of stuff, just to really hone in on the styles that you want to match your website. But we offer even more solutions for messaging. Sometimes you don't even want to write any code, right? You don't want to be responsible for any code. So PayPal provides some no-code solutions where you can provide simple payment button links, QR codes that open up checkout, all powered by a back-end admin portal. So you can essentially just either copy and paste a snippet of code, put it on your website, and then dynamically change it via the admin portal, or just hand out a convenient checkout link. And then from this no-code portal, you can add messaging to your buttons directly. The same messaging that we saw before, but now it's just nice, tightly integrated with your payment buttons. And then finally, we also offer fully no-code solutions through our partner integrations. We have a partner configurator on many of the most popular e-commerce platforms. That's very similar to the developer docs demo that we just saw earlier. That allow you to hone in on what specific messages you'd like to add, or which pages you would like to add messaging on your site, and really drill into the different styles and options as well. Everything, all the options that you have available via direct integration, also available here without writing any code, compatible with the platform that you're working with. So now I'm going to hand it over to Tanya to talk about beyond the integration.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little about what goes on under the hood in order to power messaging beyond the integration. Before I get into the technical aspect of it, I just want to give you an idea of the scale at which we operate. So every day we render over 190 million messages, and across these messages, the average render speed is only about 86 milliseconds. That's less than a tenth of a second. We also have over 300,000 merchants integrated with us, and some large enterprise merchants saw an average of about 12% increase in sales after integrating with us for just 3 months. So this gives you an idea of the value that messaging can provide in showing your customer the power of their wallet before they even reach checkout. So before you integrate anything onto your website, you may be wondering, is this product performant and is it stable? So that is exactly what we focus on, as previously mentioned. So performance and stability are our top priorities. One way we enhance performance with messages is by server-side rendering them. So messages are asynchronously delivered to an iframe on the website, and this gives us a couple of benefits. One, it isolates the messaging code away from the merchant website code so that any of the JavaScript or styling that relates to the message will not impact your website. It also minimizes any excess downloading of code bundles or JavaScript execution that might otherwise occur on the browser because this is all moved to the server. Another way we enhance performance with messaging is by bringing message decisioning as close to the customer as possible. So what does this mean? It means messages render pretty much instantly. So we have a very dedicated caching architecture that has 2 layers of caching. And this is because message selection is a complex process. It involves a lot of factors, such as the offers and products available to the merchant, the eligibility of the merchant, and many more, all that to ensure that we show your customer the most relevant message. So how this works is that a request would essentially leave and hit our edge caching layer first, and this is our main layer that we see the biggest speed benefit at. And if it's a cache hit, this message will render almost instantly. Otherwise, it will travel to one of our data centers where it runs into our second layer of caching. This is more to save time on downstream calls. So if you look at this visual here, you can see that 84% of our messages end up hitting the cache and are served from the edge caching layer. So if you remember earlier, I said over 100 million messages are rendered per day. So that's a huge number of messages that are able to see the benefit from the edge caching layer. And this benefit is a pretty big one, as the render speed is increased 5-fold when it hits the edge caching layer. And you may be wondering, how do we get our cache hit rates so high? So essentially, we have a ton of merchants, and you can imagine that keying by every merchant is probably going to not be as efficient. So what we do is we group these merchants into different configuration groups based off of the configuration they provide that ends up leading to a message decision. So in this way, we're able to narrow down hundreds of thousands of merchants into just 33 configuration buckets, and this increases the reusability of our cache and boosts our cache hit rate. This is just a closer look at the impact of the edge caching layer, and it just gives a better visual at how these speeds are distributed. So you can see in the blue, these are all our cache hits, and the first 2 bars, that's a huge chunk of our messages, and all of these bars, the first 2 bars, all rendered in less than a tenth of a second. If you look at the white bars, more to your right, these are all cache misses, and there's a bit of variability there because we render messages globally. So a message request coming in from, say, Australia is going to take a lot longer to render than a message request coming in from, say, Los Angeles. The average for these misses is a little over 300 milliseconds, so it isn't bad at all. But you could see you might have noticed the lack of overlap between the hits and the misses here, and that just illustrates the huge impact that the edge has on our render speeds. It unlocked this whole new level of speed down here. So on top of render speeds and caching, we also care a lot about your Lighthouse scores in terms of performance. So I know a lot of you, if you have a website, you're probably trying to get the score as high as possible, or at least not reduce it. So in this picture, you can see all of the metrics that go into the performance Lighthouse score. And this picture is also a screenshot that was taken from one of our test pages that rendered about 5 different messages. And in this particular case, the Lighthouse score was unaffected. So we're able to achieve this in a couple of ways. So the speed index is how quick content is visually rendered on your screen. And we just talked about how the edge caching layer ensures that messages are painted to the screen within milliseconds. So in that way, we're able to reduce our impact on the speed index, or the SI. We also talked about server-side rendering and how that moves a lot of the JavaScript execution to the server instead of blocking the main thread on the browser, which is what the total blocking time, or TBT, measures. And that's how we reduce our impact on that. The first content paint isn't going to be impacted by our messages because iframes aren't included in that metric, and messages usually aren't the largest content to be painted on the screen, so the LCP would not be affected either. On top of all of that, messages are accessible so that all of your users can benefit from the integration that you add to your website. So this means that our messages are compatible with screen readers and with keyboard navigation. So that was a lot about performance and how that's a huge priority for us. Our other huge priority is stability of our messaging. And we achieve this in quite a few ways. So one, all of the changes that we release they all go through unit testing, functional tests, and end-to-end tests in multiple environments. And these tests are required to pass in order for any change to be released. We also have a very active and flexible team with a couple people always on 24/7 on-call support. We also take advantage of complex tooling for stability. So for example, we use an industry standard static code analysis tool that all of our code runs through. And what this does is it ensures that we match code coverage, we pass all our tests, we don't release any potential bugs, and it scans for maintainability or readability issues, all that to ensure that we ship out the highest quality code that we can. And we also have very complex monitoring and alerting systems set up in order to give us high visibility into the health of our applications that power messaging. And this allows us to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to future optimizations. Messages are also compliant in all markets. So we render messages in 7 different countries. So our disclosures are clear and accurate. We're very careful about data collection and user privacy in order to comply with consent laws such as the GDPR in the EU or the CPRA in California. We're also aware of and abide by industry standards set by the IAB and Apple's ITP. The server-side control over our caching allows us to ensure that messages are always compliant and always up to date with the latest requirements. And in case you guys didn't know, Pay Later Insights are available to all Buy Now, Pay Later merchants, whether you have messaging or not. So without messaging, you can see data such as the total Pay Later sales, average order value, and the number of transactions. With messaging, this report is further enhanced with offer breakdowns and breakdowns by payment type. So you'd be able to compare users of credit card versus debit card, or pay in full versus pay monthly as a few examples. And in today's data-driven world, this could be pretty valuable as it helps you learn more about your customer. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jason to talk about what's in development.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, so just a quick few words about what's coming up next. So some of you may have been at the Commerce API where they focused a little bit on smart messaging. That is in active development right now, and we're excited to see where that goes and how we can even further increase the efficacy of messaging by making more relevant offers to your customers. In addition to just the consumer personalization of offers, We're also looking at making it smarter based off of your different business or enterprise. So there might be some commonalities across different industry verticals, or maybe it's your transaction data that says, hey, your basket size or X, these types of pay later products work better with that. In addition to that, we are developing server-based config. So as you saw, a lot of the configuration of the styling and which offers to show or in the client-side code in development will be a way that you can use a similar GUI like on our dev docs and in those partner configurators to basically create an evergreen integration where you just have a hash that maps to one of those configurations, and then you can go to that portal, update the configuration, and you don't have to do a live code push on your site. So that's what's in development, and next steps, we invite you to check out our dev docs. Here's the URL, and get started with that. And if you come across any questions or concerns, we'd love to hear from you. Here's our contact info for our emails, our LinkedIn profiles, and we'll be out here on campus today eating lunch. We love to talk BNPL. We love to talk messaging. We've got our product partners here with us, Scott and Rajul. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming, especially the last session before lunch. Thank you. Are there any questions today? Yes.
I think there's one page about the inside, right? Is that available in the PayPal reporting or the customer?
So you had a question about the PayPal Insights, the reporting?
I think there's one page, right, that you can break it down. That is available to merchant now?
Yes, yes. So again, there was, I think, 2 images. If you don't have PayPal messaging, you get a limited breakdown between PayPal and Pay Later for PayPal. But if you integrate messaging on your site, that will unlock a lot finer grained detail for you.
Another thing is because as a merchant, right, there is, unless you have some exclusive deal, likely you will have more than one kind of their provider, right? Everybody pitch, right, how to put their message there. And just from technical perspective, right, if I have to put 2 or 3 messages on the product page to use, imagine there's some potential conflict issues there.
So you're talking about showing multiple BNPL providers on the same page. Yeah, so this is commonly done with many merchants today. And so that drives a lot of the optimizations that we do because we want to be the first one to pop in on that page, paint. But yeah, it's a common thing. We'll see, our messaging stacked up against others. There's no interoperability issues that I'm aware of. You might run into something. Anybody else? Yes.
Question is, for the new world, the agent, right, to place order on behalf of people, right? And if for the monthly installment, right, there is interest rate, right? And I just want to how to handle the situation, right? If the agent, right, they think, okay, maybe there's a good offer for the monthly installment. However,
So you're talking about it. Like someone or software purchasing on behalf of another entity, and how would you
that is
do that?
On behalf of real people, right? And they say, okay, monthly installment, there's a good offer. However, the people will bear more cost, right, in the long term, right? How does that work? I'm curious about that.
I would be cautious to make sure that any agents I was using on my behalf was looking out for my best interest, and making sure that it knew that I preferred, I don't know, maybe lower monthly payments, or maybe I prefer a lower interest rate, because that's basically the 2 different options. I can spread it longer with the pay monthly. I'm going to have a lower monthly payment, but now I'm paying interest, or I can pay more in my shorter term and enjoy 0%. So I think it would be a matter of configuration of that agent and your personal trust in that to ensure that it's going to do the right thing. Now, as far as applying it and the legal ramifications behind that, I'm sorry, but that's all new to me. I would not know how that would work.
Open question, right?
It's a great question. Right?
Yeah.
I think it might have been.
Okay, any others? No? All right, well, thank you so much. And I think lunch is about ready to kick off. So thanks again.